Claire Dunning had always imagined a bookmobile as a kind of magic carpet, a way to carry stories out to the corn-rimmed farms, the seed corn offices, and the one-pump gas stations that dotted Cheyenne County, Iowa. When the town council approved her grant application and let her purchase a used 1998 Bluebird bus from a Des Moines auction, Claire felt as though her little library in Elk Fork had finally grown wings. She spent 2 feverish weeks repainting the bus a hopeful robin's egg blue and covering its sides with vinyl decals, swirling stacks of open books, letters that arced like shooting stars, a smiling owl with spectacles. The townspeople donated beanbag chairs and a battery-paired cash register for fundraising bake sales, and the local high school shop class installed pine shelving. Claire christened her creation The Wandering Word. The inaugural route was set for the second Saturday in June, just in time to coincide with the county's Sweet Corn Festival. Claire plotted her journey with the concentration of a cartographer, careful to include the most isolated farms. She packed adventure novels for bored teens, large print westerns for grey-hailed grandfathers, board books that smelled faintly of apple juice, and a shoebox full of hand-written, overdue notice reminders she'd never had the nerve to mail. At dawn, she eased the Bluebird out of the library parking lot, her stomach fluttering like a trapped moth. The air tasted of clover and cut hay. Dew glistened on the windshield. Claire flicked on the old tape deck. Faith Hill's This Kiss warbled through the worn speakers and pointed the bus toward County Highway M17. She made her first 3 stops without incident. At the grain elevator in Riverside Junction, 2 mechanics in oil-smudged coveralls checked out Tom Clancy paperbacks, while Claire balanced a tray of sugar cookies on a hay bale. At Bridger's Orchard, toddlers in sticky overalls groped for board books shaped like tractors. The bus's growing success filled her with a fizzy joy she hadn't felt since childhood. Then, 5 miles from the next farm, the engine coughed. It was a deep, roomy hack, like a smoker's last breath. Claire's foot eased off the gas. The temperature gauge's needle spiked. With a shudder, the bus lost power steering. She wrestled it onto the narrow gravel shoulder. The tires skidded over crushed limestone. A final spasm rattled the chassis and the engine died. For a moment, Claire sat, gripping the wheel. Windshield framing a shining ocean of tasseled corn, the carders droned in the heat. She turned the key, a click, then silence. Swallowing panic, she grabbed her phone. No bars. County Highway M17 was a notorious dead zone. An hour ticked by. She tried the ignition again. Nothing. Knees drawn to her chest, she contemplated the cruel irony. Her brand-new dream stranded in a ditch. A rumble of diesel interrupted her despair. A rusted ATS Ford with Parker's Garage stenciled on the door. The driver, barrel-chested and stubbled, offered a sympathetic smile. "Need a lift, ma'am?" "Claire." "And yes, please." He introduced himself as Nate Parker, secured the Bluebird, and towed it 3 miles to his family's garage in the town of Maple Grove, population 602, and one decidedly aromatic livestock auction barn. Inside the dim workshop, fluorescent lights fizzed overhead. The bus loomed like a listing whale amid engine blocks and tangled hoses. Nath crawled beneath it while Claire paced, biting her thumbnail. 10 minutes later he emerged, wiping sweat from his temples. "Radiator's shot," he said, "and that rat hose is cracked clean through." Claire's shoulders slumped. "Can it be fixed?" "Probably, but parts'll take a day or 2, he hesitated. "I saw something else you might want to look at." She followed him into the bus. He tapped a panelled wall near the rear wheel well. "What sound that?" He knocked. A hollow thud. Then he rapped the panel opposite, a solid thunk. "See the difference?" He pried at the hollow panel with a flathead screwdriver. The plywood popped free, revealing a narrow cavity stuffed with waxy brown packets. Their musty odor mingled with diesel and library paste. Nate reached for one, but Claire's librarian reflex kicked in. Gloves first. She fetched a pair of nitrile exam gloves from her tote. Together they slid a packet onto an upturned milk crate. Inside lay a stack of baseball cards wrapped in yellow tissue. Claire recognized a few names from her father's static EM radio broadcasts. Stan Musial, Roy Campanella, Jackie Robinson. Then her gaze caught on a familiar face. Broad smile, navy blue cap, Mickey Mantle. 1952 tops 311. Even a librarian who'd never watched more than 3 innings of baseball understood the card's mystique. Mint copies fetched hundreds of thousands at auction. Nate let out a slow whistle. "Ma'am, you're sitting on a fortune." Claire's pulse hammered. She fumbled for explanations, smuggling, forgotten inheritance, some eccentric collector's secret time capsule, but came up blank. "We need to tell someone," she said finally. "The sheriff, maybe." Nate scratched his jaw. "Sheriff's at the county fair judging pie today, not back till evening." He replaced the panel. "Bus is safe here, I'll lock up. Meanwhile, do yourself a favor, keep this quiet." By nightfall, word had leaked. Claire wasn't sure how. Perhaps a stray text, a curious customer or gossip carried on summer wind. But the next morning, strangers milled outside Parker's garage. They wore polos with tiny embroidered bats and gloves, or vintage jerseys tucked into designer jeans. One man, alligator skin, briefcase in hand, flipped a business card like a magician's ace. "Trent Mallory, acquisition specialist, Diamond Edge Collectibles." Claire bristled. Acquisition specialist sounded like corporate for treasure hunter. Mallory's smile flickered when Nate refused entry. "We'll compensate you generously for any inconvenience," he said. Voice honey slick. "Bus belongs to the Elk Fork Township Library," Claire interjected. "No decisions until the sheriff's aware." Mallory's brown eyes narrowed behind aviator sunglasses. "Ms. Dunning." Dunning. "You must understand the gravity of these items. Condition and provenance are everything. Amateur handling could ruin them." He leaned closer, whispering, "We could settle today. 7 figures." Claire's heart lurched, but she forced a polite librarian's smile. "Come back with a warrant or a museum curator." Mallory's jaw twitched. "You're making a mistake." By afternoon, more collectors arrived, trailing news crews and booming satellite vans. Reporters thrust microphones at Claire. "Is it true you found mantles worth 600 grand? Who was the previous owner? Are you worried about theft?" She retreated into the garage. Nate locked the doors. Neon buzzed overhead, while rain hammered the tin roof. Claire sank onto a folding chair, head in her hands. "How bad is it?" Nate asked. "Bad as a Dan Brown novel," she barked a shaky laugh. "Those cards aren't mine to sell. They belong to whoever hid them, or to history. I can't let them disappear into private vaults." "Then we safeguard them," Nate said. "Sheriff will be back soon." Claire exhaled. Her thoughts drifted to dusty library budgets, the cracked roof above the children's corner, the outdated microfiche reader. 7 figures could transform everything. Expand after-school tutoring, digitize the local newspaper archives, keep the lights on for a generation. But that money would come at the price of secrecy and compromise. She remembered her father's doctrine about books. They belonged to everyone. Maybe baseball cards were stories too. Sheriff Dot Harrelson arrived at dusk, boots caked with fairground mud, blue ribbon for cherry pie fluttering in her cruiser's back seat. She listened to the tale, chewing thoughtfully on a piece of strawberry gum. "So the bus was bought at auction," she summarized. "Seller was the state surplus lot. Before that, who owned it?" Claire pulled the paperwork from her tote. The document listed K&L Logistics, LLC, as previous owner, an address in Omaha. Dot called the Nebraska number. Voicemail chirped a robotic message. A few minutes later, Dot typed the company through an interstate database. "Dissolved 5 years ago." "Shell company," Nate guessed. "Looks that way. Could be laundering, tax dodge, who knows?" Dot eyed Claire. "The cards are effectively abandoned property. Under Iowa law, the library's got a strong claim, but the state might argue for forfeiture. Until we clear that, they're evidence. I'll store 'em at the station. Nate peeled the hollow panels back. 27 packets emerged, each a treasure chest of cardboard history. They slid them into plastic tubs, sealed the lids, and loaded them into the cruiser. Claire signed a chain of custody form with trembling fingers. Outside, Mallory paced beneath a streetlight, phone glued to his ear, rain slicking his aviators. When the sheriff's cruiser pulled away, his gaze followed like a hawk over a rabbit. The next morning, Claire woke to the library phone ringing off the hook. CNN wanted an interview. The Des Moines Register offered a Sunday feature. A podcaster proposed flying her to Chicago for a live recording titled American Treasure Finds. Each request added a knot to her stomach. She busied herself reshelving returns, attempting to reclaim normalcy. At noon, Nate strode in, holding a manila envelope. Found this under my garage door. Inside was a single baseball card, a battered 1960 Topps Kurt Flood. Across the front, someone had scrawled in Sharpie, "Sell or they're mine." Claire's breath caught. Think it's Mallory? Could be someone worse. Collectibles mafia's a real thing. She almost laughed. Mobsters over bubblegum cards. But the tremor in Nate's voice sobered her. We should call the sheriff. Dot arrived within the hour, cards rustling as she removed latex gloves. Threats vague but credible. I'll park a deputy outside your house tonight. Parker, your garage too, she paused. I'd also like to move the cards to the county evidence lockup in Cedar Rapids. Stronger security. Fine by me, Claire said. Dot nodded, but unease lined her brow. Until transport, those tubs stay in my locked evidence room. Only I have the key. Still, she turned to Claire, don't go advertising your whereabouts. Word nonetheless travelled faster than a prairie fire. By Thursday, Elk Fork's main street looked like a pop-up carnival. Vendors hawked Mantle Miracle t-shirts, news vans clogged the intersection by the grain co-op, and drones buzzed overhead like inquisitive hornets. The library's porch sagged under camera crews. Toddlers stared wide-eyed between tripods. Inside, Claire found refuge among her books, but even that sanctuary felt violated. She posted a sign. The library is not displaying cards. No, we do not know their value. Yes, we still charge 10-cent copies. The sign did little good. That evening, Nate called. We've got trouble, meet me at the sheriff's office. Claire drove through dusk, mosquitoes suiciding against her windshield. The station lights blazed. Inside, filing cabinets gaped, drawers wrenched out. The evidence room door hung splintered. A deputy with a bandaged head sat slumped, sipping from a styrofoam cup. Dot paced like a storm cloud. They swiped 'em, she said, voice low and lethal. Claire's vision blurred. All of them? Every tub. Security camera feeds erased. Whoever did it knew the system. Deputy Hill was ambushed bringing in coffee chloroform, maybe. Dot slammed a fist against her desk. I should have transferred them sooner. Claire steadied herself on a chair. Shock gave way to determination. We can still find them. We'll try. APB's out. State patrols on alert. A painful silence settled. Claire pictured the cards vanishing into black market vaults, hoarded by collectors who'd never let children marvel at Jackie Robinson's grin or Lou Gehrig's jawline. It felt like the burning of a library, one priceless page at a time. Nate's voice cut through. Maybe they're not gone yet. Dot raised an eyebrow. He explained at the bus inspection he'd noticed 2 cardboard tubes lodged behind the wheel well. He'd assumed they held spare lug nuts. But what if they were more packets? They could contain serial numbers or inventory lists. If we had proof of the full set, it'll be harder to sell off piecemeal. It's a lead, Dot said. Claire, you got the bus keys? There? Oh no. She rooted through her satchel, mind racing. I left them at the library desk. Let's move, Dot ordered. The night air pulsed with cricket song as they sped to Elk Fork. The library's porch was empty now, camera crews siphoned off to the next spectacle. Claire's headlights swept across the clapboard siding. A silhouette slipped around the corner, slender, purposeful. Claire slammed the brakes. "Did you see?" "Yep," Dot said, unclipping her holster. "Stay behind me." They crept up the ramp. A faint clink of metal sounded. A lockpick on the front door. Dot flicked her flashlight. "Sheriff's Department. Hands where I can see them." The figure froze. In the beam stood Trent Mallory, briefcase at his feet, library keys dangling from his palm. Anger flashed across his face before he composed a smooth smile. "Ah, Sheriff. Funny story, Ems. Dunning asked me to appraise." "Save it." Dot cuffed him while Nate retrieved the keys. Inside, drawers were riffled, Claire's desk ransacked. Mallory had clearly hunted for something. "Inventory list," Nate whispered. Dot marched Mallory to the cruiser, reading Miranda rights, but Claire's gaze drifted to the children's section, where a ragged copy of The Boxcar Children lay spilled open, pages bent. Fury bubbled up. These were her shelves. A sanctuary. She vowed no one would pillage them again. Mallory lawyered up fast, claiming he'd found the library keys on the sidewalk. The prosecutor charged him with attempted burglary, but bail was set and collectors' pockets ran deep. Dot predicted he'd walk free by morning. They still lacked the cards. Tips flooded the sheriff's line sightings of unmarked vans, rumors of out-of-state buyers, but nothing concrete. Meanwhile, the county fair closed, leaving half the deputies sick on corn dogs. Claire felt the town's hope deflating. News anchors had morphed from breathless enthusiasm to cynical shrugs. Small town treasure lost. The wandering word, still awaiting a new radiator, sat dusty in Nate's lot, decals peeling under relentless sun. Friday afternoon, Claire wandered the bus's aisle. Sunlight slanted through cracked windows, illuminating motes of dust like slow snow. She knelt near the wheel well and tugged free one of the cardboard tubes Nate had mentioned. The cap popped off, revealing a tight coil of catalogue sheets, typewritten, brittle. She unrolled them on the passenger seat. Each page listed a card, year, condition grade, and a cryptic abbreviation. BCC. Stamped above a Chicago P.O. box. She snapped photos, emailed them to Dot, then Googled the acronym on her phone's sluggish 3G. Up came an obscure reference. Broadway Card Collectors Club, a notorious mid-century gambling front that laundered money through high-value cards. Chicago Tribune articles from 1963 detailed federal raids. Many assets were never recovered. Claire's mind raced. K&L Logistics, a shell company, had likely been a descendant of that racket. Someone stashed the cards in the bus decades ago, intending later retrieval. But the group dissolved and the card trove languished forgotten until Claire's discovery. If surviving members still lurked, maybe they'd orchestrated the theft, not modern collectors. And if they operated like old-school crooks, they'd want a discreet exit route, rail or river barge, not eBay. Claire scanned the catalogue sheet's final page. Inventory to transfer via Clark Burlington Freight. A light flicked on in her head. Burlington Northern's abandoned spur crossed Maple Grove's outskirts, paralleling the Cedar River. Boxcars sometimes sat derelict until grain haulers needed them. Perfect hiding spot. She dialed Dot. "Meet me at the old rail spur," she said, voice trembling with adrenaline. "Bring back up." Sun collapsed into a purple bruise as Claire pulled onto the weed-choked gravel of the spur. The rails glinted dull orange. A lone wooden boxcar squatted like a forgotten relic, tags of graffiti peeling. Nate's pickup rolled up, Dot's cruiser behind it, lights off. Two deputies fanned out, locks drawn. A muffled clang came from inside the boxcar. Dot signaled. The deputies approached silent as cats. They flung open the sliding door, flashlights slicing the gloom. 3 men froze mid-action, cardboard tubs stacked behind them. One wore a vintage Cubs jacket, another sported fingerless gloves, the third, gaunt with silver hair, clutched a crowbar. Dot's commanding shout echoed off timbers. "Sheriff, down on the ground!" The men bolted deeper into the boxcar's maw. A chase ensued through dust and spiderwebs. Claire stayed outside, heart drumming, while Nate radioed for state troopers. Minutes crawled. Then Dot re-emerged, hair plastered to her temple. Cuffs locked on 2 suspects. The third had vanished through a floor hatch, but deputies had retrieved all 27 tubs. Relief flooded Claire so violently her knees buckled. Nate steadied her. Sirens wailed in the distance. Reinforcements. Dot hissed through clenched teeth. Suspects claim they're antique dealers hired anonymously. No IDs on them, but we've got the merchandise. She glanced at Claire. You found the trail. Nice work, librarian. Claire managed a wobbly smile. Just followed the footnotes. The next weeks passed in a flurry of paperwork, depositions and cautious celebrations. The FBI stepped in, tying the theft to remnants of the Broadway Card Collectors Club, a criminal syndicate now in its twilight. Forensic experts confirmed fingerprints on the panels matched the silver-hilled escapee, identified as Leonard Clark, former enforcer for the club. His whereabouts remained unknown. Public fascination reignited. But this time, Claire insisted on transparency and collaboration. She partnered with the State Historical Museum and the Negro League's Baseball Museum in Kansas City. Together, they formed the Heartland Card Exhibit, a traveling display featuring digital replicas of each card, while the originals rested in climate-controlled custody, insured and secure. To fund preservation, the library agreed to sell a small fraction of duplicates less rare but still desirable VA auction, proceeds split among historical initiatives, a scholarship for underrepresented archivists, and Elk Fork Library's expansion. The final amount exceeded $800,000, enough to patch the roof, upgrade computers, and build a solar array so the children's corner could stay cool in July heat. The Wandering Word received a new radiator, strengthened axles, and bulletproof glass around the driver's seat. Sheriff Dot's insistence. Claire hit the road again, engine purring like a satisfied cat. Attendance at her stops doubled. People came not just for books, but to glimpse the bus that had hidden a fortune. Kids sprawled on beanbags, reading about Babe Ruth and Satchel Paige, while cornfields rustled outside. On a bright September afternoon, Claire parked beside a red barn at the edge of county limits. An elderly farmer in overalls climbed aboard, tipping his cap. He picked up a Lou Gehrig biography, studied the cover, then said, "Heard you folks got famous off some cards. Real proud of you." Claire smiled. They belonged to everyone now. He nodded, eyes misty. "That's the way stories ought to be." Outside, combines rumbled through golden rows. Inside, the Wandering Word brimmed with possibility, shelves sagging beneath paper worlds, a librarian at the helm, and just beneath the refurbished panels, a subtle plaque that Nate had etched. Hidden treasures live where stories reside. Claire touched the plaque, then the ignition. The bus rolled forward, scattering starlings into the autumn sky. Its cargo of tales secured but forever on the move, like a good story passing from one eager hand to the next.